Hello, you're welcome to a brand new year 2026. And like we said last year, 2025, that we'll be bringing you weekly updates on political events in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the globe. And here we are with our first weekly political update for 2026. And some of these events happened in the course of last year towards the tail end of 2025, and then they spilled over into what we are going to be discussing today. And then we start with Nigeria. And of course, we all know Nigeria ended the year on a very sad note about regarding insecurity, and the evil of issues related to insecurity reared its ugly head again. And there were unaliving that happened in a town in Plateau State, in Jos, Plateau State. And it was reported that over 9 people were unalive. And this has become almost like a pattern that happens during festive season in Jos or in Makodi, in Benue State or in Southern Kaduna. But in this case, we only have a report for Plateau State. Now, talking about Plateau State, now the governor, Caleb Mutswang, has now, like all other governors in Nigeria, decamped from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress. So now we only have few governors left in the PDP. Now, this speaks volume about issues relating to one party state. So is Nigeria drifting to a one party state? And now we have entered into a political year where all political activities is now geared towards the general elections for 2027. So all the governors, now the latest entrant is the governor of Plateau State. So let's see how that pans out in the coming days. And talking about politics now. Now, last year, 2025, we saw all the intrigues, politics that happened in River State. But it appears the political crisis in River State is not yet over, as we have seen a resurgence of the non-confrontational war between former governor Barrister Nyesom Wike and the incumbent governor Similaye Fubara. And then it's all about 2027. Wike is insisting that Fubara will be a one-time governor, and Fubara, from all indication, because he's recently decamped to the PDP, to the APC, I beg your pardon, and is looking at getting a second term in office. But Wike's main concern is the fact that if Fubara gets a second term, then he'll be buried politically. So now this brings to question the fact that what we have in Nigeria, is it about a one-man show, or is it about the people of River State? Because we keep wondering why it appears just one man wants, his interest to be protected. What happens to the good people of River State? And then, due to high level of psychophancy, you see people dancing to the tune of Barrister Nyesom Wike. But it's still a far road to 2027, because we have one whole year for politicking, campaigns, maneuvering, and application of game theory. So let's see what happens. And now that brings us to another issue. There's so much agitation now, especially with the tax issue and the agitations in the north. And all of this is now, put together in a coalition of a new political party, the ADC. Now, the news making the rounds is Peter Obi's, decamping from the Labour Party to the ADC. And a lot of his supporters are a bit disappointed. You can tell from Twitter that some of his supporters are a bit disappointed that Peter Obi decamped to the ADC. That means he's probably going to become a vice presidential candidate. Though he has said he doesn't want to be a vice presidential candidate, but let's see what happens, because we don't see Atiku, relinquishing the ticket, because he has not hidden his ambition to become the president of Nigeria, having contested over 4 times. So let's see what happens in the coming days. And of course, talking about defections and coalition, there's a brewing political crisis in Kano between the godson, Governor Kabir, and the godfather, Rabi Musa Konkoso. Well, Konkoso said he's not going to decamp with the governor to the APC, and then he feels betrayed. These are some of the things that happen in politics, especially now that we have entered a political year. So let's see what happens. Konkoso, obviously, from the news making the round, will want to join the ADC given certain conditionality like vice presidency, position of president's ticket. Well, let's see what happens. That means this year is going to be so loaded that we'll have so many things to talk about. And then let's quickly dive into Africa. So a lot has been happening, but of course, the ones that have really made the headlines is about some soldiers from Burkina Faso loyal to the dictator in Burkina Faso were arrested in Ghana by security forces with catch of ammunition. Motive not yet established, but according to preliminary reports, that the soldiers said they were working on intelligence and trying to maintain security across the border. But in due course, we'll see what happens there. And the big issue, Nicolas Maduro captured in Venezuela by the special forces under the orders of President Donald Trump of the United States. Now, part of the allegations is that Maduro, spearheaded a ring of drug pushing and drug cartel that has pushed so much drugs into the United States, and then they are arresting him on the grounds of, you know, you know, drug pushing and all of that. But there are a lot of questions about America's launching an attack in Venezuela. Some talk about issues related to the sovereignty. Some talks about the issue related to, violating international laws when it comes to sending forces into Venezuela. But the news has been greeted with mixed reactions, considering the fact that a lot of Venezuelans have taken to the streets to celebrate the capture of Nicolas Maduro. Whilst, on the streets of Caracas, there have been lots of celebrations going on, even on the streets of the United States, where Venezuelans living in different parts of the world, they've expressed, some form of joy and celebrations regarding the capture of Nicolas Maduro. But let's see what happens the coming days, because we have reports that Maduro has now landed in the United States to face trial for his alleged atrocities about leading a drug cartel that has supplied or that shipped drugs into the United States over the years. And let's look at also Iran. There's been a protest going on in Iran, and this protest is geared towards unseating the current Islamic regime in Iran. Why some have said this might not amount to anything, considering that a similar protest was held about 5 years ago with no tangible result. But it appears for what is going on now, things might take a different turn as the people seem to have now, they're fed up with the current Islamic regime and they want a change. And this reminds us solely about the Arab Spring, what we saw happen a few years ago, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, and the host of Arab nations that saw, regime change in all of these nations. So are we about to witness a form of regime change in Iran? Because we've seen people now taking to the street in mass protest against the Islamic regime in Iran. And the fact that Donald Trump has said, look, don't touch the protesters, and America seemed to, be interested in the protest. But of course, we all know when America is interested, somehow they always get their way. But let's see what happens in the coming days about what happens, in Iran. So keep tabs with us next week for your weekly political update. And some of these issues that we've discussed today might spill over into next week's discussion. And they will bring you up to date with the politics and, the intrigues, whatever, about these issues and fresh issues as they come up, every day. So please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if there are any updates you think, very important political updates you think we have missed from Nigeria, Africa, and across the world, please do leave us a comment, give us your feedback in the comment section. You can also like, share, and please subscribe and get others to subscribe so they can be first to know when we drop our weekly updates. Thank you.